we have 38, or sorry, 29 now, it says. I don't know what happened to that number of participants. But just while we're trying to figure out the video link, in here I have with me, sitting in the Sasa Lounge, and I have Jackie and Shirley and Bonnie sitting with me. I'm actually going to go run to my office and get Smudge because I'm not sure. I thought Melissa was going to be in here, but I don't see her. So I'm going to go get the Smudge, but we're here and hopefully we can figure out the video. Oh, there we go. Now I can see me. With my messy hair because of my mask. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is put this, where are we going to put it so that we can see? If I go like this, you can see us okay?
Yep.
Okay, that might work.
What if you put it on? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll just move this stuff out of the way.
Is that how big? That's the biggest you're going to be?
This, well, right now, we're looking at Krista. This is them seeing really this whole room actually with all of us in it. And let me see, I'm going to move it down here.
Yeah.
This one might be better. Rearranging Melissa's space. That's the space. Good. See, you can see them. So I'll be right back. Got my keys. I'll be right back with my bowl.
Hi, Krista.
Hi, Shirley.
Good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too.
Are you at home?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to wear your mask then. Oh, good. If I'm going to speak, I'm going to take my mask off. In the restaurant, you can sit down and take your masks off. Yeah. Like, what's the difference? That you have to go and you have to come in with them on. Yeah, but I'm saying here, why can't we take our mask off once we sit? I don't know.
Saying, what's the difference?
I don't know. They don't serve food here.
I guess that's the difference.
That's the difference. Nobody's serving us food. It's full. I don't believe it. What? You don't believe? Nobody's serving food here. Gotta be food. Well, I'm not gonna stay for the virtual tour. Well, we do the thing after the tour.
So I'm going to get you ladies to help open with Liz's help, and then we'll do the tour. You're welcome to stick around for the tour, and then if you want, and then we'll have time for questions and kind of discussion afterwards, but it's up to you.
Who's asking questions?
Anybody who's participating. So we have 45 participants right now.
Oh, are they all sort of linked to?
Yeah, so they can all see you. And so they can ask questions via the chat, or there's like a question and answer part of Zoom.
Okay. What happens after that?
The one there that's smiling.
And what happens after that?
After questions, then we're kind of going to conclude for the day.
When are they going to bring the food out? No.
I know, if we were in person, we would definitely all be sharing food.
What? The virtual tour of the whole premises. The whole premises, the church, the archives here, the graveyard. What else?
The chapel.
Oh, the chapel, yeah.
That's the same as the church, right?
Yeah, that's the same as the church.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I know. It's this mask. I don't even have it on. I'm wearing it on my chin. Maybe it'll keep my double chin nut. Hurry
at for participants, Krista?
45.
We're great. And so I think, Liz, if I can turn it over to you to get started, that would be appropriate.
Okay. So I'm actually going to stand up and lift this up just a little. Move back here, respecting social distancing. And I'm Liz. I can see myself waving, so I know you can see me. Really want to acknowledge and thank everybody that has contributed to making a day like this possible. Here at Algoma University in the Shingwauk Residential Schools Centre, we have actually some of the grandmas that have been essential to making this work come to life, stay alive, and really lay a solid foundation in making sure that things that we do as educators, things that we do as fellow human beings, things that we do belonging to the world human family, that we think about each other and we're mindful of each other with love and kindness. That our time in our history, known as residential school, whether we are survivors who went to residential school, whether we are intergenerational survivors like myself and others in my family, and many families really right across the land, doing what we can to make sure that the legacy, the truth of this time in our history is not forgotten. We actually really honor and keep in our hearts and minds every child that attended residential school, every child that died while in the care of residential school, every child that struggled to make it home when they were done with residential school, and every child that didn't make it home because of residential school. In this day and age, in 2020, we still see and know about people who are still trying to get home because of residential school. So collectively across the land, Turtle Island, because I know our brothers and sisters, our relatives in the United States, and really and truly right across the world, as momentum gains, as understanding continues to happen, as education continues, we see so many more people collectively standing together to acknowledge the importance of the lives of children affected, impacted, touched by residential school. And so today, September 30th, 2020, we are very thankful that you have joined us virtually for a showcase of some of the work that was started over 40 years ago here on this sacred and historic site known as Shingwauk. Our really collective energies across the land wish to take a moment, if you could join me in your way, to think about all who have been touched by residential school. That every child did matter, every child does matter, every child will continue to matter. And if you could join me in a moment for reflection on that. So in your own way, Shingwauk, from my heart, my family, my home fire to yours, thank you for that. What I would love to do now is present the guests that are here with me today in the SASA Shingwauk Student Association student space here at Algoma University. I would like to give them some sama, some tobacco for being here today. I would like to ask Shirley, who is our recent outgoing chancellor of Algoma University, also our first chancellor, also an Indigenous grandma chancellor. If she could open with a smudge for us. We have Sage here. You are welcome to join us wherever you are to light your smudge. I know that there are many events happening today right across the land. I think it's super cool. Actually, I was telling these ladies here that I was in a bunch of meetings this morning, and many of my colleagues, non-Indigenous, were wearing orange shirts. When I dropped my son off at his job this morning, I saw some children waiting to catch the bus, and they were wearing orange shirts. So this movement of Every Child Matters and Orange Shirt Day on September 30th is pretty spectacular. Yes. So, Miigwech, if you could take some Sema. Miigwech for being here. Miigwech for being here.
Hello, everybody.
I'll help you share. Yeah, you could just light it on the
That's what I was gonna do.
Yeah. That's good.
Social distancing, so
Yeah.
take that yourself. Pass it on. Betcha. How many lights?
Oh, no, it's good. Wow, Miigwech. I will pass that to you.
Liz,
Mhm.
the tobacco.
Oh. Mhm. Trade you. Wow. So if you could stand over here so we can kind of see you, Shirley, that would be great. That's perfect.
Over there?
Right there's good. I can see you.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks everybody for your patience while we navigate
Yeah.
virtual, the virtual land.
I just would like to say a prayer before we get started, because I think that's, we're asking for that spiritual guidance through the activities that we do, and pass the message, to help us pass the message. Take my mask down, I can't speak properly. Oh, Creator, we say miigwech for this beautiful day, for the sunshine and the rain that you have just given us. We say miigwech that we are here in our different circles, in our homes, in the parks, or wherever we happen to be gathered together to remember the children of the residential schools, in particular the ones who never came home. We say miigwech that we are able to hold these memories within our hearts in a kind and good way. We say miigwech that finally we're able to have this platform to move our message forward for the rest of our city to know about, the rest of our country to know about, and for the world to know about, that we speak with love within our hearts to spread our message that this truth will never be forgotten, and that it will lead us forward to making good decisions for our lives, for our families, and for our communities, and for the world, so that we can come together in harmony and acknowledge that what was done in the past cannot happen again in the future. We say miigwech for your strength and for the guidance of our traditional and cultural ways. We say miigwech for all the people who are celebrating this day across the country. And we say miigwech for, particularly for our families we were given, and that we hold dear in our hearts. They're the future generations. And we promised to guide them and to help them through this time. We say miigwech for the helpers that we have, all of the helpers that we have, such as our medicines, such as our medicine people, such as our cultural ways, such as our friendships, such as the love that we have for each other, and such as the love that we have for our world. We say miigwech, Creator, and to help us keep that in mind. And we say miigwech for the beautiful world that it is today. Miigwech.
So just to put a little bit of closure to that, again, now I can see that it looks like we have 69 people participating,
Oh, wow.
including all of us. So that's awesome. As the director of the Shingwauk Residential Schools Centre, I really want to thank you for really, taking the time to become more informed, to be interested in what it is that we're doing here at Algoma University with the Shingwauk Residential Schools Centre, the team that has helped pull together today's events. I acknowledge our colleagues that have helped pull this informative opportunity, and we certainly encourage you to enjoy what it is that you're going to be seeing. I know that our grandmas that are here present with us have been also asked to think about what does Orange Shirt Day mean to them. And so I'm going to ask Krista as the moderator, when would you like for them to share that? Would you like to do the tour first and let that happen after, or do you want to start with them?
I think starting with them would be great.
All right, perfect. So I'm actually going to hold the camera a little closer so that their soft-spoken, gentle voices you can hear. And I'm going to ask Shirley and Jackie, if you don't mind sharing, what does Orange Shirt Day, Every Child Matters Day mean to you in terms of your life, your family, your experience. And I'm just going to go like this. And that's Shirley. So Jackie would like, or Shirley would like Jackie to start.
So you've all told me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said the
They're sisters. And I love them.
I gotta take my mask
Yes.
off.
Krista, let me know if my holding the screen ends up faltering. Okay.
It's a little shaky, but
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna try really hard to stand still. Well, maybe I'll go like this, because then it's
Yeah, that would be great.
okay. There we go. It's focused on Jackie, and just know that we're still here.
Now you really can see me.
Yes, you can.
Whoops. Hello, everyone. It's nice to know that there's many followers online, even though I can't see you. I'm told there's 69 people. That's amazing. I really don't know why I came here today. I didn't have a plan in mind of what I was going to say, or all I know is that somebody from my First Nations showed up at my door with this shirt, and I want to thank Anishinaabe Cree. There's 3 of us in this room who have the Orange Shirt Day and Every Child Matters. And I went for my walk this morning at Clerk Park, and I wore this shirt. Felt very, very proud to wear it. The weather was good enough that I didn't have to cover it up. So the shirt has been walking in Clerk Park this morning. Every Child Matters is a very profound statement. And that's the way it should be, that every child matters to somebody. I know there's a lot of kids who go through a lot of abuse and things like that. That should never happen. And maybe by us doing this awareness day every year, might stop some of that abuse that's happening. Because little kids can't speak for themselves. They only can take in the hurt and the pain and live with that for the rest of their life if they don't deal with it. I'm very happy to hear what Liz had to say about all the people who are wearing the shirts, the support we're getting from the non-native community. I'm going to watch the news tonight and see what happened today. I know on Facebook there was people taking pictures of who was wearing a shirt today, and I didn't get there in time to do that. But Jay, who was the president of Children's Shingwauk Alumni Association, asked people to send their pictures in with their shirt on. So I came because it's a very important message to pass on to the world. No matter what country you're from, you're a child, people should be taking care of you. That's all I got to say right now. Miigwech.
Awesome. Miigwech, Jackie. Okay. I'm going to turn it this way. There you are. Okay. All yours, Shirley.
Oops. Now it's stuck in my ear.
Stuck in my earring, yeah. Oh, goodness. Okay. It's stuck in the other earring. Yes, I like to say wache, bonjour, greetings, hello to everybody that is out there. These are such special. This is such a special day, and I particularly thank the organizers who work so hard to enable us to bring this message to you. I was thinking back when I was in residential school and witnessed some of the abuse and remembered how I felt as a child at that time, being in an institution and not in a home. It was very, very hurtful and profound, but you know, we're very resilient people, even as children. We managed to bring ourselves through that by interacting with each other and being kind to one another. Of course, we had our fights too, but that's natural as you're a child and growing up. But today, it's my great-granddaughter was wearing her orange t-shirt today. I was so happy to see that. She wore it to school. And she said, oh yeah, I got my orange t-shirt on today and I'm going to wear it to school. So I was happy about that. I think it's really to celebrate this day and take it on as a celebration of the resilience of the people who passed through the residential school. Many, many of them. It's like a trail of people just passing through this building and other buildings that house the residential school. And how we have our own cemetery back here that some of the children who did not make it are buried in. It's sad, but we know that they're resting in peace now. The work that is happening around Algoma University and our movement to change things so that all peoples can share in the stories and the histories of this country. All people can share in the messages that we want to bring forward in a good spirit and a good heart. I'm especially grateful for all of our helpers. No one is more important than another one. We're all equal in that way. And I particularly want to say miigwech to my family. My daughter is here. One of my daughters is here. And she totally supports the Children of Shingwauk Alumni Association, of which was founded in, what year were we founded?
1991.
1991, yeah. That's when we were founded. it's a lot of years ago. But you know, every day that we go forward, we're bringing the message. We will not sway from that. We will not allow anyone to deter our tracks from what the message is that we bring to the people of this country, to our families, our neighbors, our communities, and the country as a whole. And we welcome everyone to participate and to have their own thoughts about the way that we choose to remember the past history of this country, and what an incredible resilience that people from who passed through the residential school still have today. There are some of us still left, and we continue to do the work. But our biggest wish is for the next generation to take up the feather or the torch or whatever it is, because we won't be here for very long, and we need someone else, our children, who are strong in their ways, in their views, and in their commitments to go forward. Thank you again. Miigwech.
Awesome. Miigwech to both of you. And so I want to thank everybody that's here. I know that we have a couple of our team members who are probably going to moderate. If there's any questions, certainly, Krista, you could let us know if there's any questions for our visitors in here. I'd like to acknowledge, thank you for being here, and you're certainly welcome to as well to say something. You're like me, the next generation out, because of our parents, you know, and the hard work that they did. Yeah, we got our work cut out for us too, and but I know I'm grateful, challenges and all, for this beautiful life, this good life. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues, Krista and the rest of our team. We have a beautiful tour to share with you, the start of a tour. It's not quite finished, but I'm going to pass it over to them, and we're going to put our mute on. Gosh, I can't talk properly. My mic on mute, and I'm going to put the camera in front of the screen in front of my visitors here. They're from the same pod, the same family, the same social bubble, so they can be together, and I will watch on my phone. Miigwech.
Thank you so much, Liz, Shirley, Jackie, and Bonnie, for being there and for your words. So as Liz mentioned, we are going to share a virtual tour of the Shingwauk site. So I'm just going to share my screen. And if you have questions, please type them into the chat or use the Q&A function, and we can go from there. So we thought doing a virtual tour for Orange Shirt Day would be a way to share the history of the Shingwauk Residential School and the legacy of that school. And so the image that you see is the building that now houses Algoma University. This building was actually the second residential school that was built on this site in Sault Ste. Marie. And this building, known as Shingwauk Hall, opened in 1935, again as the second residential school on this site, and operated as a residential school until 1970. And hundreds and thousands of children went through the Shingwauk Residential School. Children from as far south as Sarnia, Walpole Island region, as far north as the James Bay Coast, northern Quebec, some from Western Canada, the East Coast, and the United States. So really from all over. So when I'm talking about this history, remembering that though it's rooted in Sault Ste. Marie and Balwating, it also really extends outwards all across the land. The Shingwauk Hall building that we're looking at right now, if you think about residential schools all across Canada and think about some of the photographs you may have seen of those residential schools, you may be struck by how similar this building is to some other ones. There was actually a couple that were almost identical to this building. And the architect who designed this residential school designed about 25 other residential schools across the country. These really were institutional buildings. Think about how big this building is. So it's 4 floors high. Many of the students who were coming to Shingwauk from very far away without their parents, this would have been the biggest building they had ever seen. For some students, it was also the first time that they saw electric lights. It was the first time they were away from home or away from their families. And this building probably would have been pretty scary looking. So looking at the structure of this building, the top 2 floors were dormitory spaces with the girls over on the right-hand side and the boys over on the left. And the bottom 2 floors were classroom spaces, as well as that's where like the kitchen, the dining room, and other kind of workspaces were located within the residential school. So we're gonna virtually tour parts of the Shingwauk site. As we do that, I'm just gonna open this map here. And this actually shows you what the original Shingwauk site looked like. So the original Shingwauk site was about 100 acres. If you're familiar with Sault Ste. Marie, it ran all the way from the river, which you can see at the bottom of this map, all the way back to what is Wellington Street today. And as you're looking at this sketch, you can really see how many outbuildings there were, how much farmland there was. So thinking about the ways that residential schools worked, students were often in class for half a day and then doing manual labor around the school for the other half of the day. And this work was really divided by gender. If you were a girl at the residential school, you would have been cooking, cleaning, working in the laundry, doing domestic work. If you were a boy at the residential school, you were often doing physical labor. So things like working on the farm, working in the carpenter shop. At one point, Shingwauk had a boot making shop as well as like a door factory on the site, and the boys would have been working in there as well. Okay, so we are gonna turn to explore a little more on this site. So there's the university or Shingwauk Hall. And this is on the front lawn of what is now known as University of Algoma University. And this is actually the location of where the original Shingwauk home was located. And so that building was built on this site in 1874, and it initially opened to about 50 students. The older stone monument that we can see here is actually made from the stone of that first residential school. And the monument that we're looking at a bit closer here was actually put up by the Children of Shingwauk Alumni Association. And it is dedicated to everyone who attended residential school across the land. And it's surrounded by the 7 grandfather teachings. And it's really encouraging people to remember the students and to never forget what happened at residential school. The plaque also really honors those who didn't come home at the end of their residential school experience. So I think really important to acknowledge that message today as we're thinking about Orange Shirt Day. So we're going to continue looking around on the site itself. So just positioning us again. So that's the monument we were just looking at, right kind of where those bushes are. And this is the Shingwauk Chapel, also known as the Bishop Fouquet Memorial Chapel. So it is one of the few buildings remaining from the very early years of the Shingwauk School. So it was built in 1883. It's named after the first Anglican bishop of this region, but more importantly, this space was built almost entirely by the students of the Shingwauk Residential School. So all the stonework you see on the outside, as well as all the really intricate woodwork and carving in this space, was all done by Shingwauk students, primarily boys between the ages of 10 and 16. The Shingwauk Residential School was run by the Anglican Church of Canada, and students didn't have a choice about whether or not they attended church. They were required to at least once a week, sometimes much more frequently than that. It really depended on who the principal was at the time. The section up front here, this actually would have been where the choir sat. If we turn, you can see the church is divided into two sides. Girls would have been on one side and boys on the other. The survivors that we work with today have mixed feelings about this space, or a wide range of feelings about this space. There's some survivors who have no desire to come back in to the chapel. They don't want to talk about this space, and that's totally okay. There's also some survivors that we work with that are Anglicans today. There's also some survivors who feel comfortable in this space. There's some folks who have okay memories about the chapel, who might remember being in the choir and that being one of the few times they were able to maybe sit next to a sister or a relative. And so for them, the chapel actually has okay memories or reflections. I'd say it's very similar with the Shingwauk Hall as a whole. Every survivor has individual experiences and memories, and those vary really greatly. Okay, so just kind of positioning us again, we can see Shingwauk Hall over here. I'm trying not to turn too quickly because I don't want anybody to get like motion sick. But here is the chapel that we were just looking at. So you can also see kind of the side view and the really detailed stonework that's on the outside. The building here that we're viewing was actually built in 1935, so the same time that Shingwauk Hall was built, and it was built as the principal's residence. So it's where the principal, his wife, and any children they had would have lived while he was running the residential school. The rest of the staff would have lived in the main Shingwauk Hall building. Today, this building is used by the Shingwauk Education Trust and Shingwauk Kitamagagamig. One of the nice things about that is this space is actively being used for teaching culture, teaching the Anishinaabe language. It's actively being reclaimed and being turned from a place that was used by, the administrator of the residential school to a place that's really celebrating Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous students and Indigenous culture more broadly. Okay. So we are outside of the Shingwauk Cemetery, the Shingwauk Memorial Cemetery. Just gonna open. So this actually shows you what the cemetery used to look like. This gate to the cemetery was there until about the 1980s when it was removed. And this is a sketch of the very early look of this cemetery in the 1880s. In the cemetery, there are over 120 staff and students buried. As you can see, there are not 120 markers. Most of the headstones that you're seeing belong to staff, people who worked for the Anglican Church, or their family members. Most of the students' graves were marked with wooden crosses. And because of both a combination of vandalism as well as just the fact that wood naturally rots over time, none of those crosses marking the students' graves are left. There are a couple stone headstones that were some of the very first students who passed away. So for example, the one that's at the bottom left of the screen here, that's marking a student grave. However, right in the middle, here, I'll just zoom in a little bit, is a cairn that was put up by the Children of Shingwauk Alumni Association. And it is in memory of everybody who is buried in this cemetery, even if they do not have a marker. And this really came about following the first reunion that was held in 1981 on the Shingwauk site. So that reunion invited former students to come back to Shingwauk and begin to talk about their experiences, to begin to connect with other people who attended residential school. At that weekend, many people came back to the cemetery. They kind of saw that the cemetery hadn't been well looked after. It had only been 11 years since the residential school had closed. But in that time, many of the wooden crosses had deteriorated or were no longer there. The stone wall that makes out the outside portion of this section of the cemetery had been pushed over in parts. And it really just looked like no one had cut the grass or cared for the space in 11 years. It really was the survivors and their families who initially started to care for this space. They were the ones who physically rolled up their sleeves and cut the grass. They were the ones who raised money to put the monument in the center of this cemetery. And this space is still a space that survivors and their families put work into on a regular basis and that they care deeply for. For thinking about residential schools across Canada, almost every residential school had a cemetery. But those cemeteries today aren't well marked. Many of them have no markers at all. It's not clear that they're a cemetery. And so the fact that this space is cared for so well today, and that ceremony happens in this space and that survivors are so involved in maintaining it is really important. And I think really highlights the involvement of the Children of Shingwauk in caring for the Shingwauk site as a whole. Okay, so kind of did a big jump there. We're now actually inside the Shingwauk Hall building. So when we were looking at the very start of the virtual tour, up at the building, these are the front doors. And actually where Shirley, Jackie, and Liz are is right through the door at the end of the hall here. I want to take a second to actually talk about these doors and the significance of them. So you can see that the inside of this space has been really transformed. This space is known as the Reclaiming Shingwauk Hall exhibition space. It is dedicated to telling the history of residential schools and the history of survivors at the Shingwauk site. It's also honoring survivor resilience. And we will share a link to this tour in the chat afterwards, noting that it is still under progress, but you can kind of poke around and read some of the text a bit closer. But these front doors are the doors that students would have walked through when they first entered the residential school. And for many students, that changed their life in ways that impacted the rest of their family and the rest of their lives, and kind of for generations to come. And so you can kind of see it in these doors. They are wooden. They actually don't like fully shut, but they do have a lot of symbolic meaning. And a few years ago, Algoma University was doing energy efficiency upgrades. And one of the discussions that came up was replacing things like doors and windows within this historic building. And there was some discussion about replacing these doors. And at that time, the children of Shingwauk really spoke up about the importance of keeping these doors here in some way because of their significance to the survivor experience, to talking about what happened in residential school. And I think it's really important to recognize that these doors are still here, and that, you know, Algoma University did listen, and that is really involved in that dialogue with survivors to make sure that the legacy of residential schools and the history of the Shingwauk site is shared and respected in a really appropriate way. Sorry, I'm just zoom out a second. So this space here is another portion of the Reclaiming Shingwauk Hall space that's really focused on the lived experiences of survivors. So for example, the sewing machine here was actually donated by Fran Fletcher Luther, who is one of the sisters of both Jackie and Shirley. And in the exhibition space, really acknowledging how when Fran was at residential school, she spent a lot of time in the sewing room. And then later on in her life, how she used the sewing machine in her own life. So thinking about the impact of that half-day system at residential schools and how that impacted both the education of students and also their lives later on. So the last space that I wanted to share today is the Shingwauk Auditorium. So this is one of the few spaces on campus on the Shingwauk site that hasn't been completely renovated. If you look up, it's still all the original woodwork on the ceiling. It's the original floors, so they've been refinished. And during the residential school era, this space would have worked kind of like a school gym. It was a space where if they were doing a Christmas celebration, Easter celebration, it would have been in here. Likewise, plays were put on in the stage. And if students were able to talk to family or siblings, it would have been in this space. So for many survivors, they may have neutral or sometimes even positive memories about this space. So it's a space that as a community, as the Shingwauk Residential Schools Centre, that we often hold events in, we often gather in, because of how meaningful it feels to the survivor community. The Reclaiming Shingwauk Hall project that, we just virtually walked through together is going to extend into this space as well to, further contextualize and explain the importance of this space. And so I really just saying, like, this tour that we virtually went through together today is just a snapshot of the history of the Shingwauk Residential School. We could spend hours going through this together, and it really is a meaningful history that I would encourage everybody to engage with, to learn more about, to talk about, to ask questions about, particularly when we have folks like Shirley and Jackie around who are willing to share their stories. I think it's so important that we have the opportunity to listen to their wisdom and their knowledge that they're willing to share. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and can definitely open it up. If there's any questions, we can address those. And I'd say if Shirley or Jackie have anything they would like to add, I'm definitely open to that as well. So there is one question I can see in the chat right away about the variety of feelings around the chapel. I'm wondering if it's also true of the kids who helped to build it. Would some people maybe feel proud to having contributed to building it, and some maybe have felt pain because they were probably forced to help build it. So because the chapel was built in the 1880s, we actually don't have very much information from the student perspective of those who worked on the chapel. We do have names of some of those students, but we don't know how they felt about it, unfortunately. In some cases, it really was like back-breaking labor. So I could definitely see there being, mixed feelings about that space and the work involved in that as well. There's also a note from Jay Jones saying, "Chimigwech to Shirley and Jackie for their resilience, dedication, and inspiration."
I have our mic unmuted here. And so you heard Krista say that Jay was online watching.
Hi, Jay.
And he thanks you. But I believe Shirley's daughter has some comments.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Weave. I am the daughter of, I don't know if you can see me, I'm the daughter of Shirley Horn and the niece of Jackie Fletcher. I've grown up listening to their stories. I've been at Shingwauk Hall. I've attended university as well. And the one thing that I'd like to really say is that there's a lot of their nieces and sons and daughters that have graduated from this school as well. So it's really nice to be a part of that process, and acknowledge that we are the second generation of the generation that went to Shingwauk School. The learning has been continuous for ourselves, where we pass this information down to our children. So that has been really great, where, we've had a couple of younger students that also are still attending Algoma University, and they know the history of their aunts and uncles that have attended this residential school. I, for one, myself went into social work for my degree because of residential school, because of the harm that has been done to children. And then the aftermath of the next generation dealing with those traumas from the previous generation that attended these schools, that had no feelings, had no love, had no understanding of what it is to be a brother and sister, or, so my goal was to be in social work so that I could help with children who are dealing with these issues and give them some sense of understanding of the historical past of residential school. So when I see my granddaughter, when I have conversations with my granddaughter, who is wearing the yellow shirt at school, you know, that tells me, the orange shirt, I'm sorry, faux pas, who is wearing the orange shirt at school, you know, she is also educating those at school. You know, they're going to say, why are you wearing that orange shirt? And especially with the message, every child matters. You know, to her, she's going to explain that to her fellow classmates. So yeah, I also know teachers here who have their children attending school and they're also wearing their orange shirts. So, you know, it's a great movement for us to acknowledge that children are important. What they say is important. How they look at life is important, you know, and that those abuses should not be upon these young individuals who are just learning about life itself. So, Chimikwich. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. So there's a few more questions that have come in via the chat. One asking if Shirley and Jackie, if you have a message that you really want like the Canadian public or the settlers of Canada to hear.
Oh, absolutely. Jackie? Okay, she's gonna let me go first this time. Anyway, yes, absolutely. This is a journey that we're all on. Not just the children of Shingwauk or not just the community in general. We're all, as human beings, we're on this journey together. And I think it is so exciting and I'm so grateful that it's having more and more people being involved and being champions of what needs to change in the world today, specifically in through our education and through what we do as communities to build unity and to build to take this message that every child matters. And because for far too long, this story of the residential school has been a blot on this country, and it's up to us. We've been left to do that from previous generations, and anyone else in this country who will listen to us and who will take to heart the message that we bring when we're spreading the truth about what happened in our country. But most importantly now is what we're doing to correct all that, what we're doing to make things better for the children of today, for our families and the communities and for the world, as a matter of fact. We want to be all a part of this. Miigwech.
Hi, it's Jackie Fletcher here. I went to residential school here from '59 and then was put out into boarding homes until 1964. That part of the residential school doesn't get much press or much talked about, but there was so much overcrowding here that they had to put us out into private homes. And the private homes got money for us being there, plus we were their personal servants in some cases, such as I was. I was with an elderly lady and I had to do everything. I mean, hard work is not something that I scoff at, but I can't believe that two people living in a house, I had to clean the floors and the walls every week. Like, how dirty can you be? There's a very good program that's come out in the last couple of weeks called Contact. I think it's through TVO, and it tells the story of residential school and what it's done to our people. And they took 8 non-believers and non-native people into the First Nation communities, and they got firsthand immersion on what it was like as a result of a residential school and how they live how that trauma is still being passed on today. If you get a chance, anybody out there to watch that, it's really well done. And personally, myself, I was fortunate enough to be able to produce a video with another Anishinaabe Cree member on the residential school and the survivors, as well as second and third generation people. And I think they have it here at the archives as well. So there's lots of material out there, and I really believe it needs to become part of the curriculum of all levels of education. I mean, we've learned about colonialism all through my life that I know. Now people need to hear the other side, the story about what happened to us as a people, that we're not freeloaders and all drunks and lazy people. We've been volunteering, my sister and I, and about 10 or 12 of us since 1991 on this issue. We've never let it die. So don't tell me we're not hard workers. I guess that's all I want to say right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
I'm just going to press mute. Krista, go ahead.
Yeah. So there was a question for Shirley and Jackie again about what does resilience mean to you?
Okay, go ahead.
Can you see us, Krista? We look like we're sitting in the dark.
Yeah, you are. So
I can see you. I think the lights are probably just on a timer, so if you get up and move around, they should probably come back on.
Turn the lights on.
No, I had the lights off, Krista, so that they
Oh,
there you go. Now we can see you.
Okay, what was the question again? Sorry.
yeah. So the question was, what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience to me is the willingness and the necessity of moving forward past all the obstacles that stand in our ways. We require help from others. We require resources to be able to move forward, and just the spirit of knowing that this is such an important subject that should be known to everyone in this country particularly. And resilience means to me that we need to think about it. We need to bring ourselves in a good place to know what we're going to be sharing with each other, to know what ideas that we can come up with when we work together to move forward and to continue that action. Of course, we get tired at times. I know I do. But then we just, all it does is take another meeting and another gathering to get me going again. So resilience is the spirit of doing something that is worthy of everyone to have, everyone to know about, and everyone to embrace as part of their journey as well.
For me, resilience means to bounce back. And we've been bouncing back since 91, since we started this volunteer movement. We've run into a lot of adversity and people wanting to shut us up and telling us to keep quiet. But we've been respectful all along the way, but yet we still put our message forward. We know what we want, we know where we're going, and we know what we want to leave behind as a legacy. That's good.
Thank you so much. Liz, I wondered if you maybe wanted to offer some kind of closing words on behalf of the center, and really, Jackie and Shirley, if you have closing words as well, I think that would be appropriate. Chimigwach to all of you for being there.
Yeah, awesome, Krista. Thanks a lot for passing the mic back over here. I think, just as I mentioned in the beginning, as a result of, you know, the tireless efforts and really all the tears, all of the being brave to face the battles, whatever those battles might have been, really thankful as a first generation out, and I know as another first generation out woman sitting here, that we have a lot of thanks to give for our parents, and really truly believe that no matter what, they gave us the best they could with what they had at that time. And you know, when you look at the word resilience, and you look at the word intergenerational trauma, and you look at the word healing, and you look at the word grief, all of them are intertwined, connected, sometimes in a beautiful way, sometimes in a not so beautiful way. And I know in working with grandmas and grandpas, one of the things, and really all residential school survivors that I've had the opportunity to come across in my life, one of the things that I'm most grateful for is being able to see the power of resilience and healing and know that it does exist. It gives me hope for my children, my grandchildren that are coming, and great grandchildren someday. It really does give me hope. And so at this time, as I do work alongside my team in the Shingwauk Residential Schools Centre, we too are very honored to be a part of the legacy that is being left. You know, the work that we're doing is being left for others to become informed about. So miigwech for that. Shirley, Jackie, Bonnie, and certainly you cannot see probably, because I don't even know if you can see me. Oh yeah, you can. We have our president here. Ozma has been able to join us for this last bit. So I certainly invite all of our guests in here today, if you have any final words before we sign off, anything, maybe we could start with Jackie and move along this way and finish with our president.
Okay. Thank you for putting this on, Krista. You've done a marvelous job with moderator. I think we need to do this every year. And the other thing that I'm concerned about is, I know they have Black History Month. Why don't we have a month of activity? Why is it only Aboriginal Day? We need to change that.
Yes.
That's all I got to say. And thank you everybody for attending.
Miigwech, Jackie. Shirley, do you want to add some words?
One of the things I was just thinking about as I was, as we were going through this is, we have my sister Jackie and some of the other ladies that work constantly with children of Shingwauk, and Jay and Daisy and Irene, John, all of these people, like what we've witnessed over the years was people who are passing away as our circle gets a little smaller every time that we come together. But we had lifelong friendships, which was beautiful, We never forgot each other. And I think that friendship was part of what drew us together to create the Children of Shingwauk and to continue to work for over 40 years. So that's a huge commitment, but it's one that we love and that we cherish and that we know is going to be valued by the world. Miigwech.
Hi, I'd just like to say miigwech for being part of this circle and being able to share my thoughts from a different perspective. We're the next generation of these elders here in regards to my learning and where I was heading and working with children today and working with Aboriginal families and being able to, you know, give these messages in regards to residential school and give them some sense of understanding of, you know, the processes that they've been through and why sometimes, or even answer questions as to why things are happening within our communities and our families today. So even the next generation, as my grandchild or my children, you know, they have the ability to change in a positive direction because they don't have to go through what my elders here on my left went through. I didn't have to go through it, but I went through a different process of it. And then my children, and then their children, you know, it's just a constant positive learning process for the next generations to come. They're going to have full understanding of what's happened, how it happened, why it happened, and how they slowly move forward in a positive direction, and how they can change the views today of the world as well. So I say miigwech. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'm gonna turn our picture this way. Our president, Ozma Vesma, is here, and I would like to ask if she could close out our opportunity of visiting today.
Sure,
Thank
and
you.
thank you so much, Liz and Krista, for all of the work that's gone into organizing today, and of course to the elders who've joined us today. It's always so special to have them here on campus and sharing and laughing with us and helping us to think about what we need to do as we think about moving forward in a good way. And one of the things that I've taken over the last 3 years as a learning is the importance of truth. And what I've really connected with is the, sorry, I think I was getting emotional here, is the grandfather teachings. And I think about what's happening in the world today, what happened to those that went to this residential school. And I think about the gifts that the Indigenous people are trying to give us. As a community, as a society, as a country. And we're not listening as a country. Not on a wide scale anyways. So today when I opened up my social media, I saw a flurry for the first time of orange. And I saw a big response to my social media. Often when I put social media on, I'll get hundreds of hits on things, but I don't always get much on the Indigenous posts that I make. Today I had lots, and I saw lots, and I thought, my God, our nation is paying attention. So I have huge hope for our future. I do believe that we need to start listening. There are really important teachings that can help our country heal, that can help our world heal. And I really think the Shingwauk site and all of the partners that are coming together right now have a role to play in that. And I look forward to where this journey takes us and what we accomplish together. So miigwech to chi miigwech to everybody for participating today and for everything that you continue to do to push our thinking. It's important. Yes, you do, and smudge. Anyway, miigwech, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you, Ozma. And so I'm just going to put our back here and down like this so you can see the rest of our circle. And I'm going to also turn the light on. And I'm going to just ask, before you leave today, our participants that have joined us from wherever you happen to be, if you could take Ozma up on her challenge as a non-Indigenous person wherever you happen to be in your life, whatever it is that you're doing. Like many of our colleagues who are here on campus with us at Algoma University, and really do what you can to help us spread that message. The beautiful teachings of our Anishinaabe people here in this area are very similar across the land. Our original instructions of taking care of each other, of knowing that all life is connected, is so important. And the messages from our grandmas and us as intergenerational, the next generation out, we hope that resilience is a part of everything that you do, whatever it might be, that you help us spread, goodwill, altruistic vibes out to our world, because our world needs it. It really does. And of course, in today's health crisis in the world, we challenge you as you do the work that you're doing to remember to think about your neighbor, to practice all of the good messages that the experts have shared with us as a country, doing what they can to keep us safe. That means us doing what we can to keep us safe. So thank you for joining us in a crazy COVID-19 virtual world. Normally we would be, hugging each other and feasting and celebrating and doing all those kinds of things. Today it's smudge, hand sanitizer, masks, and water. That's what we have, along with so many beautiful good intentions that speak to the universe. Shingwauk from us here on Algoma University campus for joining us.
Bye.
Mama P.